So, Mike, Jefferson Terraplane, it's the best I could do. I'm sorry for the name. It's just a name I've had registered as a domain for a long time. And I finally found a use for it.
There you go.
So I can be Jefferson, you can be Terraplane.
All right, that's cool.
And I hope you don't mind. Like I said, I think this whole thing is informal. I'm going to have a bag of chips.
I'm going to have a cup of
Talk
coffee
and shoot the shit.
in my Led Zeppelin.
I know. What's that? The Beginnings of Led Zeppelin? Is that the new movie coming out?
Yeah, it's called Becoming Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
Well, I'm skeptical. There's, I've got tickets to the first show Friday,
right,
at 4:30 at the IMAX Theater in Durham.
Okay.
And sitting in the center row of the center of the theater for maximum impact. I also went to the very first screening in Greensboro in 1976 when I was 14 years old of The Song Remains the Same, and saw it in the original, like 5.1 sound that didn't exist back then. That was not a thing, but this was something like that, where they had speakers behind, so like when you'd hear echoes and things like that, you'd hear things behind you and like keyboards would be around. So it was sort of an early version of surround sound. It only was like that on the first run. So
who's making this one?
Do what?
Who's making this one?
I'm not sure who the people are. It is officially sanctioned, so that's a good thing. So that means that they probably won't have any erroneous information. There's tons of Led Zeppelin documentaries on YouTube that I actually used to find in the very early days of Netflix, when Netflix just rented videos. And you'd be going through the little online thing and you'd see, oh, there's a Led Zeppelin documentary. It's Led Zeppelin uncovered, or something like that. And I'd rent that. It would be the same bunch of talking heads. One of whom was David Fricke of Rolling Stone. He was pretty knowledgeable, but there were a couple other guys that were kind of sus. They always got stuff wrong, and they didn't have any licensing in any of the music, so you would hear this sort of Led Zeppelin-esque music going on. Yeah. And a lot of the stuff they would do was, talk about was just completely erroneous and silly. Some of it was good, some of it was okay. So I'm hopeful, but I'm not going to be surprised if it sucks. And I'm going to probably go see it at 4:30. And then come home and write a script and then go on it. Because I'm leaving the next morning at like 7 a.m. to go up to Washington, D.C. to see my daughter, and I want to get it out there.
So I need to look for your YouTube.
Yeah. And if you're a subscriber, you should get a thing saying, hey, Mick DuRocque, Rock Raconteur, has uploaded the video. So
I'll make sure in post-production we'll have where your channel is and so forth.
Right. Oh, cool. Thanks, man. Cool. And
Mike, I do want to. I was going to say you can just tell me about it, but I'd rather watch your video. By the way, like I said, we're free to imbibe and eat and snack because this is an informal thing.
I'm just got my Led Zeppelin coffee. So.
I enjoy a whiskey now and then, and for some reason, I find that keeping with water in the fridge in whiskey bottles just so much better.
Yeah, I was telling my kids about that. I drink almost everything out of glass these days, although this is metal. But I was telling my kids that one of the and this is so weird because how can this be a treat? But whenever I used to, like, when my mom, like if I was sick or something, and like I was a latchkey kid, and when I was too sick to go to school and then to after school care back in the late 60s, early 70s, my mom would take me to my grandmother's house, and my grandmother always had cold water in a prune juice bottle. Which, you've ever seen prune juice bottles? No, not in the 21st century or late 20th century. This is a thick green glass thing, right? And she had cold water, and for some reason the cold water just tasted better. It just out of that prune, and I was like, that was the treat, for sure.
So, you grab it, it's cold. It's colder than metal in a can. And so I've got about 4 whiskey bottles in there, which I've had 4 whiskeys.
I don't think I've drunk enough whiskey in my life to even make up 1 bottle. I'm not a whiskey drinker, and I really haven't drunk any alcohol much lately. I had some sangria at a Halloween party this past year at Scott Logan's house, and instantly regretted it because it was laced with it had rum in it. Ooh. And I immediately I've never heard of sangria with rum in it, but he was going the extra mile. And I was standing there talking to Eddie Huffman, and I told Eddie, I said, Eddie, I've had, like a cup of sangria, and 7 years ago I had a gastric sleeve surgery, so my stomach is the size of a banana, and so one of the advantages of that, they tell you
not a wet banana.
It's about the size of a banana. My stomach is about the size of a banana, so my stomach's really small. Okay. So, I mean, my gut is huge, but my stomach's small.
Same here.
But one of the advantages or disadvantages, however you want to look at it, is that one drink and it just metabolizes really quickly, and I'm instantly like drunk for like 10 minutes.
Right.
And so I was standing there talking to Eddie Huffman. I said, Eddie, I'm really drunk and I might throw up on you. And he goes, well, thank you for telling me. I appreciate that.
I don't think I've thrown up on somebody.
Yeah.
I'll take it back. Somebody threw up on me.
Yeah.
Back when, in the late 70s, when Rocky Horror Picture Show was all the rage.
Right.
I was wearing some pants that were a little too long, and I cuffed them up. And we were smuggling Old English 800 into the movie. Of course, we did that for the Hendrix movie, Let It Be, all those rock movies. I think a lot of these things were at either the Cardinal Theater in Raleigh, North Hills, or right across from NC State, which I don't know what that was called. I can't even remember now. But long story short, a guy threw up on me, and I didn't even notice that till I got home that I had vomit in the cuffs of my pants.
Nice. Yeah, I my very first rock concert in 1976 was Kiss, and some guy behind me was drinking some sort of, I guess it was red wine, because he didn't get on me, but I was, because I was so hip at a rock concert, I was wearing like this pale yellow golf shirt, probably 100% polyester because it was 1976.
Right.
And the splatter got all over the back of my shirt. And my parents were already really skeptical about me going to a rock concert anyway. So I was like, and they were like, what is this all over your shirt? I was like, I think it was something that they shot from the stage or something.
Oh, there you go.
And even though I was way up in the nosebleeds, but yeah.
So, what have you been listening to lately besides Led Zeppelin?
Honestly, I haven't been listening to Led Zeppelin all that much. I've just been, other than just like to catch up on these bootlegs that I'm talking about. I have actually, for the past almost like 2 years now, I've been on this just like hardcore Jethro Tull fanatic binge, and they're a band that I in one of my early bands when I was 16 or something, 15. When my bandmate, the actual lead guitar player, I couldn't play solos back then, was a huge Jethro Tull fan, and he just kept razzing me all the time about how much better Jethro Tull is than Led Zeppelin. Now, I still don't believe that, but they are really, really good. So I always kind of pushed them away. And then some years ago, I got into them and a little bit and bought a couple of albums. And then about two and a half years ago, about the time I was forming Blusterfields, for some reason, nothing having anything to do with the other, I picked up Thick as a Brick and started listening to it again. And I was just like, oh my God, this is like next level shit. And I started just diving deeper into the catalog rather than, that and Aqualung and Stand Up. And somebody, and I think it was that guy, Brian, loaned me a copy of Minstrel in the Gallery back in the day. So I've
Can I interrupt you for a second?
Yeah.
I've got this light that goes from, one color to the next.
Yeah.
And it's starting to blink, and it's looking like a police raid in the back.
It's an ice raid. Yeah. Jeff, you're not legal.
Well, that's another story for another day.
I'm trying to figure which room are you in? Are you in that front room there?
Yeah, it's the Secret Monkey headquarters.
Okay, yeah. Gotcha.
Okay. Mike, I think you look fine, man. I mean, you've got a little bit of a stubble, but it's like a George Clooney thing. It's not particularly...
Well, I've been ill for the last, 3 days. I woke up feeling crappy on Thursday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Actually, I was at the pool Wednesday night, and I was about 3/4 of the way through my workout, and I just, oh God. And so I went to the hot tub and that made it worse. And so I came home and just crashed and I canceled all my lessons on Thursday. And then we were supposed to rehearse yesterday. We haven't rehearsed in so long that I really hated having to miss rehearsal, but I was laid up all day yesterday. And then, as to paraphrase Rick James, NyQuil's a hell of a drug.
Right.
So,
yeah, to paraphrase. Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, to paraphrase, NyQuil's a hell of a drug. So I'm functional today, and I've got a session tomorrow, and I got to go do that. And
I haven't had lunch, so
yeah, I just finished mine just seconds ago.
We're recording this after 3 p.m. What's the one?
Rock musicians
the Montreal Expos cap.
Yeah,
I'm so glad because I was hoping you would. Because I don't know. I think we should talk about sports a little bit on this podcast.
Sure.
Let me just give you, like about a 30-second off-season report by the Orioles. They've signed a few, mid-tier pitchers. Nobody that will replace Corbin Burns. Orioles have, 2 other starters who are prone to injuries, probably won't be back to the middle of the year. They have a new billionaire owner, David Rubenstein, but they're not really opening the wallet. So, I knew that whomever the Dodgers were going to get, the Orioles weren't in on, but it just really hurts to see the Dodgers just become the new
Yankees.
Yeah. Honestly, I never did dislike the Dodgers.
No, I
pretty much pulled for them when they were in the World Series, but I'm getting a little sick of seeing the rich get richer. And I don't know. I mean, the Orioles might end up winning another 100 games this year, but I don't know. It's kind of a sickening feeling. I think the whole idea of a salary cap would make tremendous sense in baseball.
Yeah, I follow baseball every year in that I go, Jeff taking plugs of whiskey.
Nice water, man. Do you want to see some whiskey? I've got some scotch in there that I'd love to pour you.
I haven't drunk scotch since my parents gave me a sip of it when I was 16, and that cured me of ever wanting to touch scotch. No.
Ella of drinking age, and she's not fond of liquor. She'll have a drink once in a while, like
and you know what? And if I am going to drink, it will be liquor. It will not be beer. I haven't had with the gastric sleeve surgery and all that stuff. I can't handle the bubbles. And also, I used to work for All About Beer magazine.
I remember that.
And I was their art director from like 2005 to 2004 to 2007. And it kind of turned me into a beer snob, which I was kind of there anyway, even though I can't stand IPAs. But
wait a minute, what, you just taste them like a beer tasting? You didn't really slug them back then?
No. I mean, the last time I really drank beer to any great effect was when to a lot of beer was when I lived in England, and that's just kind of what I do. But that's the only job I ever had where they actively encouraged you to drink beer on the job. They would go, "Hey, you need to taste this because you're doing this layout on this. And you need to kind of get an idea of what we're talking about here." And I was like, "Okay." So they would, pull some weird Belgian ale out of this refrigerator that was shipped over in an airplane the night before, and it's like completely not available in America. It's got like 11% alcohol, and it's the best thing you've ever tasted. And they were not bad to me. They were nice people. But the way the job ended, they were print media, unfortunately, was dying even in 2007 when this happened, and they were bleeding money really bad, and so they decided to outsource everything to the printing company that they used to print the magazine. And that happened to me once before, a few years before, when I was writing for I was an art director for this rock magazine called Amplifier. And the first issue that I saw I was not the art director of, and I'm not thinking I'm any sort of great art director. I was definitely suffering from imposter syndrome. I'd never been an art director before, but I've always been a magazine enthusiast. I've always liked.
I remember when you did that. I remember all that. Well, here's the thing. It's like, even though you were doing the graphics, you felt it necessary to drink the beer.
Right.
Okay.
But the first issue back from that rock magazine that I was outsourced from, it was the most, and I went to they sold it at Barnes and Noble or whatever, and I went to Barnes and Noble Borders or wherever it was, and bought that first issue that where I was not the art director, and I was horrified. It was just terrible looking. It looked just so, it was both boring and incompetent. But when All About Beer moved their stuff to this other company beyond me, and it came back, that thing looked 1,000 times better. So I was like, okay, but still I had this sort of funky taste in my mouth about beer at that particular point. Yeah. And that's when I started teaching guitar full time or more full time, and finally became no longer a hobbyist.
Right. What was that? Was that a review? There was a review that kind of stuck in your craw.
Yeah, that was, and it's funny because Rick Cornell and I have been chatting. He loves the new Blusterfields record, and it's way behind that. And he's a sweet guy and all that stuff. But he just, like a lot of people, just didn't follow through on figuring out who it was, because, and I generally, and he did. It wasn't a bad review. It was, in fact, it was a co-review with your band. It was a co-review with Brown Mountain Lights, which I mixed that live album.
Right. Well, wait a minute. Let's back up. Your band was.
That was Stratocruiser.
Oh, Stratocruiser. I was thinking even further back with Ronald.
No. Okay. This would have been about 2000. This would have been 2000. Well, after 2007, because that's when.
Yeah.
Because and Stratocruiser. I guess that was one of the last Stratocruiser records. But there was this one particular Stratocruiser record that got several really good reviews, but it got two that were just nasty. Nasty.
Wait, national reviews?
Fortunately or unfortunately, I kind of agreed with those nasty reviews.
I didn't like national reviews, national magazines.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, one of them was in the Garden Grove Gazette from Garden Grove, California. But what was no, that's not national. But what was the guy that wrote it writes for Goldmine, and for some reason I did something to piss him off. And I don't know what it is because I don't know him personally. I think it had something to do with Sparklefest and me not asking his band to play Sparklefest, which I didn't know his band existed. So how could I have done that? So, but anyway, but Rick said, Rick kind of was doing he reviewed the two records, and he was like, and I think it might have been that one that I mixed, or it might have been the other one. I don't know. When did that Live from the Cave album come out? What year was it?
It came out in the summer of 2003. We recorded it with Dave Philly at the Cave in September and October of two shows in 2002.
Okay, so this would have been after that. So this would probably been a proper album that you guys did. That one, probably the one where Adele wrote the lyrics for some of Greg's songs.
That was that was not us. That was the band that spun off from Brown Mountain Lights.
Right.
Long Gone or
Great Big Gone.
Great Big Gone, yeah.
Right. Okay, that's what it was. And he was comparing me to Janet Place as us being hobbyists. And I don't think of people like that. You're a musician. That's what you do. I knew Peter Buck back in the days when, REM were touring around and they were on MTV and all that shit, and he was still working at Lux Tree Records in Athens. So people have jobs, they got to get paid.
That's right.
But so I've gotten bad reviews and never felt the need to kind of like you storm in and give them a bunch of crap. Sure. But I wasn't mean to Rick. I was just like, dude, you should have figured out. I said, I don't know about Janet, I don't know what she does for a living, but I was like, I earn every penny I make in the music business. I either teach music or record music or write music or perform music. This is what I do. I've been a musician since I was 14 years old, and I played my first paid gig when I was 15. Playing pool parties for topless teenagers. So, that's a great story. That's one of my favorite. I was in this band. We were called Equinox, right? With the same guy. Equinox, yeah.
It's sort of like wasn't that a Styx album?
The Styx album, yeah, and it just sounded good and raw. Right. And it's the same band with that guy Brian that tried to turn me on to Jethro Tull, and we got this gig, a couple of gigs actually, playing this pool party at this house in this very exclusive neighborhood in Greensboro called Starmount, and I don't remember the girl's first name, but her last name was Kathy, and like Charlotte Caffey, the Go-Go's, and that's what I keep wanting to call her, but that's not her name. It was like
Caffey, Caffey.
Yeah. And
that
if you ever drive around, huh?
Was her last name?
That was her last name, yeah.
Oh, I thought that was her first name.
No. I don't know what
hey,
her
Kathy.
Kathy. Oh, Kathy. It's
like
she's British.
A lisping person.
Right, or British. Oi, Kathy, what's going on? No, so, but her dad was Irving Cathy of IH Cathy Distributing, which is the big Budweiser Anheuser-Busch distributorship in Greensboro, right?
Yeah.
So her parents go out of town. This is something right out of Dazed and Confused, right? So her parents go out of town, and instead of like them having to sneak the kegs of beer in, Dad just says, "We're going out of town. Here's like 4 kegs of beer." And they had a swimming pool that was in their backyard that had this sort of overhang thing. And we played under the overhang. And seriously, Jeff, there were like 500 teenagers there from all the high schools. And, people were like in the house having sex and smoking dope and then half naked in the pool and all this stuff. And we were just standing there playing, Blue Oyster Cult songs. And we played about 2 hours. And
how old were you?
Huh? 15.
Oh,
15.
Okay.
So I had never seen a topless girl before ever in real life. I was like, and I wouldn't for another couple of years. And I was trying to like not look because it was so super distracting, right? So I was just concentrating on my, chord progressions and whatnot. And so we had this just crummy little amp for vocals, and we didn't really even have a vocalist. We were just making rock noise for this thing. And this went on and on and on and on. And so, my parents dropped me off at like 5 p.m. or something. There was nobody there. And then they came back about 10 o'clock when I called them. That was the only time I went in the house was to call them. That's when I saw the, craziness going on. So I call them, and, come get me. Here's, and they said, okay, we'll be down there. So my mom and dad both come to get me. It's like 11 o'clock at night. I don't know why my mom's came, but she did. And they pull up, and just immediately there's just drunk teenagers running around, lying passed out in the yard. My parents are furious, and they get me in the car and we're riding home, and, they're sitting in the front seat, and, this is, some like probably my mom's old, Gran Torino with the sofa seats, and I'm sitting in the back, and they're just telling me, just read me the right act. You're not doing this anymore. You are not going out. You are not playing these type things anymore. This rock music stuff has just got to stop. Da 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 da. And it just giving me the crap. And I was like, I was really upset. And I mentioned something about getting paid. And she said, "You got paid for this? Yeah. How much did you get paid?" And we got $300, right? Which in 1977 dollars was like serious bucks. Probably and double. I took my $75 and I slapped it down on that sofa seat between my mom and dad. And they're going, "Okay, when's your next gig?"
Hey, Mike, I was just going to say, when Becky were talking about the hobbyist stuff and the other jobs you've had, I think you are the perfect co-host here because not only have you worked a lot of interesting jobs, and I think you've alluded to some of them on your podcast.
Yeah.
As you and I have discussed before, you do have the gift of gab. So, but I might just have to struggle to get a few words in myself. That's right. That's right. Well, Mike, I guess I'm going to draw it to a close because I didn't time this, but I feel like maybe I'd like to keep these around, no more than a half hour, but maybe 20 minutes or so. But I will just maybe ask you one more question. I'll tell you a little thing about what I'm up to. Wow, my wife's just calling. I just saw it on my Dick Tracy watch. While I was setting this up, well, actually, I think when you started talking, I saw on my computer screen that I got a confirmation that I was confirmed for a gig at the Kraken in August.
Me too.
Are you? What date are you playing?
Sometime in March.
I kind of wish we had gone for a cooler month because I think the closest I ever came to heat stroke was there 2 summers ago playing with Lud. I had to lay down in the van and Laura was putting like ice on me and stuff to dry. But anyway, long story short, there's a band from Dallas, Texas. You may have heard of them. They're called, it's spelled Prof Fuzz 63, but he's a Professor Fuzz 63.
Right.
Mike Farmer and it's his wife and his kids. So it's another family band like Secret Weekend. So we're going to do a little tour starting in Chapel Hill. I was thinking about the Cave, the Kraken, but I don't know. Got that confirmed as we were starting our podcast. But then we're going to go to, I think, Richmond, Baltimore, D.C., Philly, New York, New Jersey, and maybe 1 or 2 more in the middle. So basically, it'll be a week on the road with them. So that's sort of what I've been up to. I've been trying to book some shows, and I've been shopping our Secret Monkey second record, which was also produced by Don Dixon. But I shopped and I tried and tried and tried, but I'm admitting for the first time that I think I've been whipped, and I'm just going to have to put it out again myself.
Well, yeah,
it was so close with one label. It was so close that it almost like it felt like the food was in our mouth, and then it got pulled out.
I've been there, done that. There's this podcaster that I saw that I watch, and he's from Britain. His name is Andy Edwards, and I can send you a link to some of his stuff. He used to play drums for Robert Plant. He was in one of Robert Plant's bands for a while.
And he's from Live Aid, was he?
No. He was in this. Robert Plant had this band that he made up. He was just like, I'm just going to use local guys from Birmingham. They were called the Priory of Brian, and they didn't do like, they may have done some Zeppelin stuff and some stuff off his solo stuff, but they did a lot of covers. But they did a lot of touring in like 99, 2000. Anyway, this guy he's also been in a lot of like neo prog rock bands, and he's like this prog rock drummer guy and jazz fusion guy, and he loves making lists. And he's really funny. And he had this long form video that he's done, and then he's followed it up with several shorter ones where he's talking about that paradigm, that business model of getting a record deal, trying to find a record deal is absolutely just a fool's game. And I gave up on it with us too. And, there was nothing I would have wanted more, 20 years ago or 10 years ago or 40 years ago to have a record deal. And that to me seemed like the ultimate. And of course, everybody that I know that's ever had one always has a horror story about it and whatnot. But, it's you have to do it yourself. I mean, that's the only way you're going to make it. And then absolutely releasing physical product. I don't know, man. I'm sitting here looking. It's right here on the floor, right there, as the box of the new Blusterfields CD, of which we only have 200 copies.
Right. Well, that's just the way to go these days.
Yeah,
and the more you order more.
We learned our lesson on the vinyl last time. We spent $2,000 on vinyl, and those boxes are right up here on these shelves.
Yeah.
We sold some, but we didn't break even on it.
Do you sell more vinyl at shows?
Yeah.
That's how we were. We actually were doing better with vinyl than CDs for quite a while.
I think, and I've been saying I wanted to do this for a while, and we may end up doing this with this record to a certain extent, is every year or something, we're going to release a T-shirt. And it's going to come with download.
I love the idea.
Release a T-shirt, and the T-shirt would be the cover art on the front and the tracks and the credits on the back, and then safety pinned to the label in the back as a download card.
Why not?
And for $20 you get the T-shirt and you get the record. And
is that your original idea?
Yes, it is.
Wow.
And yeah, the closest thing that Shalini's old band that was, I think it was still called Shalini. It may have been it was either the last Vinyl Devotion record or the first Shalini record.
We played with it in Charlotte last year, by the way. Well, Shalini and John.
Party Battleship. Yeah. Awesome band.
Yeah.
They did this thing. I don't know if you remember. They found this company that you take a CD, right, and then you would shrink wrap a T-shirt, fold it up, and literally like vacuum seal it to where it looks like a slightly oversized hockey puck.
Right. I can envision that.
So you get the it's about that big around and the size around of a CD, but it's about that thick. And it's got a T-shirt in there. And when you unshrink wrap it, the T-shirt just kind of pops out all wrinkled. You have to wash it. But That's a great idea. That was just a fabulous idea. But even now, getting somebody to carry home a CD is just, who cares?
Yeah, it's like if you make it digital only, people are going to complain that you didn't put a physical product out. But people just all the record nerds want to hear about vinyl. So we're going to do some vinyl, not as many CDs. Can I tell you a couple of funny things that happened while we were shopping it?
Sure, yeah.
I'm not going to tell you who these people are, but this was a local label, and they can watch this themselves and recoil. I'm not giving any names except in one exception. The first label we approached, the guy said, and I appreciate it, says I'm going to be the Larry David of record company executives and probably be as honest and disagreeable. So maybe at least You know, I'm just giving you that for a warning. And it got to the point where he said, you know, family bands are creepy. And I went,
wow.
And I didn't know what to say to that. I thought, well, I guess he's never heard of not the Pointers, although I guess they were Pointer Sisters, the Staples. People, my family keeps trying to call me on my Dick Tracy phone, and
that's just creepy.
I don't think that. Yeah, that's creepy. I don't know why they don't understand. I'm doing a podcast with the Mick DuRocque, or how do you pronounce that?
DuRocque. Yeah,
Mick DuRocque.
Yeah, it's my Upper Crust name
pseudonym.
Yeah,
like Alan Cox Allen.
Right.
Yeah.
Except I envision myself as the fifth member of the Upper Crust, and I was the actual name is Le Vicomte Michel DuRocque.
And it was like is it Lady Bendover?
Lord Bendover,
Lord Bendover and Lady Bendover.
Jackie Kickasses and Le Duke Distortion and Count Basie. Yeah.
Well, to their credit, Merge Records listened to it. You can tell on SoundCloud when they listen. They didn't really respond, but it's like, well, at least Mac listened. That's what you want a record company to do.
Yeah.
But then another local record company, and I even had lunch with the guy. It's like in May, and it got all the way to November, and he still had not listened from May to December to the files I sent. I thought, boy, I don't know.
Did I tell you about my thing with it? And I will not mention this record label. This record label doesn't exist anymore, but I still don't want to mention who it was. But they were a local label. I'll tell you this: they're the biggest local label that ever was around here. We'll just say that.
Oh yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. Became Hollywood Records, maybe.
But maybe. So I meet this person. And I meet him in Carmel Mall at Elmo's, and somebody that mutually introduces, this is Mike. This is back when I was in Boloko Gandhi, and Boloko Gandhi had finished, but had not put out our new album, our second album, the one we did with Mitch. And he says, Mike's in this awesome band. They're called Boloko Gandhi, and they just did a record with Mitch Easter. You need to hear it. It's really great stuff. And the guy goes, dude, I want to hear it. And he gives me his name and number. And I was like, okay. I said, and I think I'd sent some stuff to them before. And it just got into that grinder of like some intern just sent it back. Like, I mailed it on a Monday, and I got a letter going, thank you. We listened to material like back on a Wednesday. It was just that fast. So I said, yeah, I think, he says, put my name on there and attention Mike, and then attention my name, and then put I met you at Elmo's. And I was like, okay. So I sent it, and of course I get it back 4 days later. Some intern got it, clearly not listened to it. Right. So did it again. It happened again. So then I got really pissed off. This was back in the days of cassettes. And I took a cassette and I sent them a blank cassette. And every time they said that thing, he said, we listened to your material and did not find it to meet our needs. I sent them a blank cassette, blank on purpose. And they sent me back that same thing. Said, we listened to your material and found that it was not appropriate for our label at this time. Well, of course not. It was 30 minutes of silence, you chucklehead. And that was just me being an asshole, and just me like being able to have this story and tell people, yeah.
Well, okay. I'll give one more record story.
Yeah, for sure.
We have to I want to hear, because I think I've got 30 messages from my family trying to reach me. Maybe the dogs have gotten loose or something. I don't know. Anyway, let's see. Okay, gosh, I'm talking 30 years ago, maybe, or more. Like when the Ghosts of the Illinois State record came out, and that was 1995. A label that used to be only a distributor.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah.
Said, yeah, we'll take your stuff. Just leave 2 boxes, which is about $500 worth of merch for me when you sell it for what we
sure,
sell. Yeah. I'm not going to say the guy's name, but it rhymed with Mockboy. Leave it on Mockboy's front porch.
Right.
And I don't think Mockboy was the guy who lost it, but either it was stolen or whatever. And I thought, I'm not dealing with him ever again. It's like never going to.
Oh yeah, I've had run-ins there too, and I just don't pay any attention to that stuff anymore. As much as I'd love to, it's just I have to. I've
risen above it. I'm a professional.
No, once in the late '90s, once I both started working as kind of an art director and stuff for this label and distribution house for power pop stuff called Not Lame. I didn't feel like I needed to even talk to any of the local labels around here. Not because they were evil or bad or anything like that. It's just like this was where my music fit better.
Sure.
And just through a distribution deal with that company, Bullwinkle Gandhi and early Stratocruiser Records sold most of our copies through those things, and lots of copies, and the accounting was above board. And he had a label too. He had a regular label too. And Terry was on that label, and Shazam.
I remember that.
And and then he unfortunately he walked away from it about 10 years ago, and it's a shame.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I do need to wrap it up. I will say I sent it out to a lot of labels. Some responded, some didn't. Some were very nice. Mm-hmm. In fact, now that we've decided to put it out ourselves, we probably will get a record deal now.
Because, of course. Yeah, immediately get something like that.
Somebody, I've actually written. Well, actually, I take it back. I did write to a few European people that Peter Holzapfel recommended, so there's a chance I might get licensed over there. I've got
a record label in Holland that put out a couple of Stratocruiser records, and I talked to him about putting out the at various points both Arrow Beach and the Blusterfields, and he's like, "Yeah, I'll put your record out, but it won't sell." Yeah. He said, he was a power pop, guitar pop guy. That was his thing. But he said the only way he can sell records now is selling European artists to Europeans that do some sort of dance music kind of stuff. And that's what he does. And he said he'd love to put out his stuff, but he says nobody's going to make any money on this. He said you'll have the prestige of being on a record label in Holland, but what good is that? So,
well, Mike, I'm looking forward to having this podcast with you. I honestly, I don't think there'll be no lack of fertile ground for us to discuss.
Yeah, and I will get my gray eyebrow filled in and shave.
Wait a minute. What happened there? Is that you're like?
I don't know. I woke up one morning about 4 months ago, and I have this blob of white hair right there.
Yeah.
No idea. No.
I think you should try to encourage the rest of your hairs to join that revolution.
Rest of what?
Not that. The facial hair.
Oh no. My beard is probably white. Yeah,
you would look like Peter Ustinov or
No, I had my
Andy
when I do my videos, I have some dye that I used once that was 30-day dye that lasted a couple of days. It just weirds me out. It's distracting to me. Yeah, sure. But usually I just get a Sharpie and go like this.
That's great. I would not have noticed because I think your glasses.
Yeah, the glasses are right on the edge of it.
Your glasses are blocking it. Yeah. All right. Well, look, that's all we have for today. I really thought that you made my day, Mike. And I hope
man, thanks, Jeff. And say hi to everybody for me, and we'll do this for real, and I'll shave and all that shit.
Super. All right. I'll talk to you soon.
Peace, bro. Take care.
Bye.